Hello, it's John Heaton, and today I thought I'd explore George Harrison as a lyricist, having done McCartney the other day, or at least his Beatle period. I think I'll try and tackle George's whole career in one video. I hope it's not too long. Before I start, a couple of things about the last video. I'm not trying to lay down the definitive evaluation, and actually retitled my video from evaluation to discussion because it's just a casual discussion. I haven't done an enormous amount of research for it. It's just picking a few favourites and saying a few things about, in that case, Paul's lyrics, and in today's case, George's lyrics. So, and also the thumbnail I chose for the last video, some people didn't get. I did actually leave a description, a remark in the description of the last video that it's a picture from this book by David Bailey, Depiction of Yesterday, with the stabbed out cigarette in the fried egg. So nothing to do with scrambled eggs, or no other hidden meaning other than to say it was David Bailey's depiction of yesterday. So that was that. So George, well, I think he started off his Beatles period a bit like Lennon and McCartney. Well, he was a bit behind them in the songwriting, but his first few efforts were not particularly distinguished. Don't Bother Me, his first song, is a kind of, leave me alone kind of song. And it's okay. And then his first couple of songs on Help are kind of okay love songs, quite good lyrics. By the way, I just want to say that if one could divide George's lyrics into certain categories, apart from his earlier period when he hadn't really developed, I'd say there's a few themes going through. There's one early on, or from Taxman onwards, there's a kind of, if he's pissed off with something, he'll put it down in song. And I can think of a few to fit that description, such as Taxman and Piggies, and also his digs at the other Beatles, like Not Guilty, and It's Only a Northern Song, and then maybe his digs at material possession not bringing all the rewards that it should do, and that kind of leads in nicely to the next category, which is spirituality, and that kind of dominated George's career really overall, and I think that's why I want to cover his solo career in this video, because I think his Beatles career, he wasn't really flourishing as a lyricist apart from right at the end, and it was All Things Must Pass where he really exploded lyrically and musically, and subsequent albums as well have a lot to recommend them, and so I'm going to talk about those as well, and then as well as that, the spirituality category, which is quite dominant really in his work. We've got a period of self-reflection and depression, the Dark Horse Extra Texture period, which I'll talk about, and then we've got all his glorious love songs, some of them to Patty, but quite a few of them to Olivia, and I'd say they dominated the 33 and a Third and the self-titled album, and to a lesser extent Summer in England and Gone Troppo, and then we've got his latter work, which I'll also mention a couple of examples. So I think his first significant song to me was Think for Yourself from Rubber Soul. By the way, I just want to show you this illustration of Here Comes the Sun. It's not actually credited as Here Comes the Sun in the index, but I'm assuming with the sun coming out of the egg there that it's depicting Here Comes the Sun. So I thought I'd show you that. That's pretty neat, and I'll talk about the song later. So Think for Yourself, encouraging people to think, not follow leaders, watch your parking meters, as Dylan said, and maybe, not always do what you're told to do and try and be independent. And this was the beginning of the kind of mid-60s, stick up for yourself, don't be too ruled by your parents' generation, and be independent and strike out on your own kind of thing. And I think that was a good first step for George. And If I Needed Someone was a strong song, musically, if not too remarkable lyrically. And then, Taxman, I think, have I got Taxman here somewhere? Yeah. Superb dig at the Taxman. I mean, not particularly a political song, because it's a dig at the establishment, because whether it's a Labour government or a Tory government, there was a Labour government actually at the time in the mid-60s when George was getting charged around 95% of his income 95% of his income disappeared as tax, whereas today I think the top tax bracket is only 40%, so it was pretty draconian, and actually a lot of rock stars ended up leaving the country as a result, like, for example, the Rolling Stones. But the Beatles, at this time at least, stuck it out, and John was to leave later, but not particularly for tax reasons. So yeah, let me tell you how it will be. There's one for you, 19 for me. Should 5% appear too small, be thankful I don't take it all. Now my advice for those who die, declare the pennies on your eyes, because I'm the taxman, and you're working for no one but me. It's a great opening song to Revolver, and a really good lyric. And then we've got his masterpiece on Sgt Pepper, which I must admit, as a young fan, I didn't particularly like. In fact, I used to skip this track, if you can believe it, originally. But that was when I was 14 and didn't know any better. Now I regard the lyrics as a masterpiece, and I think it fits the mood of Sgt Pepper like a glove. And I think George Martin was pretty impressed with it, having told George to go away and do better when he came up with It's Only a Northern Song. He came back with Within You Without You, which is, one of the masterpieces on Pepper. And the lyrics are very philosophical. We were talking about the space between us all, and the people who hide themselves behind a wall of illusion, never glimpse the truth, then it's far too late when they pass away. We were talking about the love we all could share, when we find it, to try our best to hold it there. With our love we could save the world. I think it's sensational. As I say, I didn't like it to begin with, but that was my problem. And then It's Only a Northern Song is quite an amusing, if that's the right word, dig at Northern songs which published the Lennon-McCartney canon at the time, and actually a few of George's as well, up until he struck out with a separate publishing deal. If you're listening to this song, you may think the chords are going wrong, but they're not. We just wrote them like that. When you're listening late at night, you may think the band are not quite right, but they are. They just play it like that. It doesn't really matter what chords I play, what words I say, or time of day it is, as it's only a northern song. Heavy with sarcasm. So that was that. And then he really comes into his own as a songwriter with his songs on the White Album. And yeah, I just want to mention Ross Michaels in this book. I didn't notice too much of a hidden meaning in the words of While My Guitar Gently Weeps, but Ross Michaels says, if George's guitar gently wept on the White Album, his voice fairly raged with self-doubt and worse, self-laceration over his disillusionment as the Beatles' world appeared to detain him from a spiritual audience with God. In Gently Weeps, he seems to tell himself, using the second person, that he doesn't know how you were converted, you were perverted too, or that no one alerted you. He looks around, sees the world is still turning, and his guitar gently weeps. Harrison is singing from outer space here. He sees nothing has changed. His impact on the things that matter is nil. He hasn't relieved anyone's suffering. He feels profoundly purposeless and cosmically irrelevant. Well, I mean, I was quite interested to read that take on it. I must admit, I haven't sat down and thought anything that deep into that song, a wonderful song though it is, but interesting take on that. And then the other songs on the White Album are all great. One's a warning about overindulgence in chocolate Savoy truffle, which takes its words from the names of the chocolates in the Good News chocolate box, which was an equivalent of Milk Tray or Quality Street in those days, late 60s. Long, Long, Long is one of his best ever love songs. And then on the following album, Abbey Road, we've got Here Comes the Sun. And I just think, this is obviously one of his most popular songs. I think it's the most popular Beatles song on Spotify right now. And I just love the words. And it's such an uplifting song, both in melody and in the lyrics. Little darling, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter. It seems like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun. And then the second verse, little darling, the smiles returning to the faces. It seems like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun. And then the last verse, I feel the ice is slowly melting. It seems like years since it's been clear. Here comes the sun. here comes the sun, and I say, it's all right. It's just absolutely glorious, this song, in every respect. Musically, lyrically, instrumentally, it's top drawer. Okay, now we're going to move on to, well, I'll quickly mention I Me Mine from the Let It Be album, because that's an interesting song about ego, and he writes about it in this superb book. If you want to study George's lyrics, don't listen to me, read this book, because it's George talking about every song he ever wrote and doing a huge commentary on I Me Mine, a whole page worth here. I'm not going to read it all, but he says, so suddenly I looked around and everything I could see was relative to my ego. That's my piece of paper, that's my flannel, or give it to me, or I am. It drove me crackers. I hated everything about my ego. It was a flash of everything false and impermanent which I disliked. But later I learned from it to realize that there is somebody else in here apart from old blabbermouth, brackets, that's what I felt. I hadn't seen or heard or done anything in my life, and yet I hadn't stopped talking. Who am I became the order of the day. And then it led to this song, and glorious song it is, and much undervalued, I think, as a track on Let It Be. And then now we're going to move to his solo career, and now we move into the spiritual territory with this masterpiece. Came out in 1970, and just want to say a quick word about My Sweet Lord, because not just lyrically, in every respect. I know it's been said, and it's true, he kind of nicked the melody from He's So Fine, the track by the Chiffons, or the Chiffons, whatever the name is. But I think if one compares the track, if one listens to He's So Fine and then My Sweet Lord, to me, My Sweet Lord is a much better record, even though it might have more or less the same tune, because the instrumentation is better on here, George is singing better, and the spiritual message is a lot more moving than He's So Fine. Boy, girl kind of thing. So I think this record is a huge success. I think probably George should have faced into the fact that he'd nicked the tune and given a co-writing credit to whoever should have deserved that. But other than that, I can't fault this song at all. And Harrison always seemed a little defensive in his interviews about this, and I'm never sure why. I just don't know why he doesn't own up and say, yeah, okay, I screwed up. But to his defense, he does say that this song saved a lot of people's lives, and a lot of drug addicts wrote to him and say, this song saved me. So it did a lot of good. I'm sure it did a net more good than harm. But I can't help thinking that when he was recording it, someone would have been able to point out that it was a bit too similar to that other track. But anyway, I got off the beaten track there. But it's a really moving song. And then Isn't It a Pity? Just a masterpiece in simplicity and one's fellow feelings for one's fellow human being. Isn't it a pity? Isn't it a shame how we break each other's hearts and cause each other pain? How we take each other's love without thinking anymore, forgetting to give back. Isn't it a pity? Some things take so long, but how do I explain? When not too many people can see we're all the same. And because of all their tears, their eyes can't hope to see the beauty that surrounds them. Isn't it a pity? It's just absolutely beautiful. And this album is chock-a-block full of beautiful melodies and beautiful lyrics. And there's one on side 2 here, which is actually written about Bob Dylan, who he'd recorded briefly with in May of 1970. And some of those sessions have just come out recently. I don't have them yet on CD. And he'd found Dylan to be quite a recluse and not really coming out to play, or certainly not doing concerts at the time. Not that that's too important, but not actually recording that much music either, and being a family man, which is fair enough. But George sensed that Dylan was maybe going through a bit of pain and said, "Why are you still crying? Your pain is now through. Please forget those teardrops. Let me take them from you. The love that you are blessed with, this world's waiting for. So let out your heart, please, please, from behind that locked door. It's time we start smiling. What else should we do? With only this short time, I'm going to be here with you. And the tales that you taught me, from the things that you saw, makes me want out your heart, please, please, from behind that locked door. And if ever my love goes, if I'm rich or I'm poor, come and let out my heart, please, please, from behind that locked door. Just a first-class Harrison lyric and Harrison song, and Pete Drake's playing superb pedal steel guitar on it. And then we have another track from side 2, which was, we all kind of think it was aimed at McCartney, and in I Me Mine, the book, he does actually say that Paul was falling out with everyone at the time, going around Apple saying you're no good. And I would be surprised if it wasn't about Paul, but anyway, it reads well as a piece of poetry without the music, as I hope I'll demonstrate now. Everyone has choice, when to and not to raise their voices. It's you that decides which way you will turn, while feeling that our love's not your concern. It's you that decides. No one around you will carry the blame for you. No one around you will love you today and throw it all away tomorrow when you rise. Another day for you to realize me, or send me down again. As the days stand up on end, you've got me wondering how I lost your friendship, but I see it in your eyes. Though I'm beside you, I can't carry the blame for you. I may decide to get out with your blessing, where I carry on guessing how high will you leap. Will it make enough for you to reap it? Only you arrive at your own made end, with no one but yourself to be offended. It's you that decides. I wonder what Paul would have thought of that, hearing it. Probably not too happy to have George write a song like that about him, but I think their relations were not very, very good at the time, but they were to become better friends later on, although they've never really been that close since the Beatles anyway, in my opinion, or up to George's death I'm talking, obviously. Then we've got other tracks which are masterful on All Things Must Pass. Beware of Darkness is another masterpiece, both lyrically and musically. And All Things Must Pass, this great song about renewal, with the last verse, now the darkness only stays at night time. In the morning it will fade away. Daylight is good at arriving at the right time. It's not always going to be this grey. All things must pass. All things must pass away. All things must pass. All things must pass away. It's a contender for one of George's best ever tracks, although I know Invisible Ray, you don't agree, but anyway. What else have we got? Now we're going on to, well, I want to mention The Art of Dying, which is about reincarnation. I think that's an interesting song lyrically. Now this album is altogether more spiritual and more in-your-face religious stuff, and hence some people objected to it and even got offended by it. I remember Tony Tyler in the NME saying it's quite incredibly annoying, the fact that George is preaching these lyrics at us. And I've never found it annoying in the same way I've never found when Dylan went through his Christian trilogy with Slow Train Coming and Saved and Shot of Love. I never found that annoying either. In fact, I found it gloriously uplifting in many cases. And the same with this. You don't have to agree with the Hare Krishna stuff necessarily to appreciate the lyrics. I mean, the light that has lighted the world, very heartfelt. I've heard how some people have said that I've changed, that I'm not what I was. No, it really is a shame. The thoughts in their heads manifest on their brow, like bad scars from ill feelings they themselves arouse. So hateful of anyone that is happy or free, they live all their lives without looking to see the light that has lighted the world. And then the glorious closer to the album, that is all I want to say. Our love could save the day. That is all I'm waiting for, to try and love you more. And that is all I want to do, to get right next to you. That is all I'm living for, your love and nothing more. And that is all. Times I find it hard to say, with useless words getting in my way. Silence often says much more than trying to say what's been said before. And that is all I want from you, a smile when I feel blue. And now this song could be written about a woman or God. And I think probably at the time he wrote this album, it was probably more about God than about Patty, because they were shortly to split, or around about that time they were splitting. But I wouldn't know. So that's Material World. Now in Dark Horse we get the interesting combination of a very spiritual George still on certain tracks, but then other tracks him coming completely clean about what a naughty boy he's been, and with drink and drugs, and even extramarital activity being hinted at, or not even hinted at, quite obviously referred to, I think, in a song like Simply Shady. Somebody brought the juicer, I thought I'd take a sip, came off the rails so crazy, my senses took a dip. Before the bottle hit the floor and I had time to think, I was blinded by desire, the elephant turned pink. The rest is simply shady, it's all been done before, but it doesn't make life simple, that's for sure. You may think about a lady, cause yourself a minor war, but your life won't be so easy anymore. No sooner had I sown it when I began to reap. I was torn from shallow water and plunged into the deep. And as I started drowning, I clung onto a straw that somehow kept me floating, while my madness craved for more. And then the last verse, a pebble in the ocean must have caused some kind of stir, and witnessed by the silence, reached from here to there. The action that I've started, sometime I'll have to face, my influence in motion, rebounding back through space. I think it's one of my favourite ever Harrison lyrics, and the following song is a song about his breakup with Patty, and I remember being a slightly pretentious 16-year-old schoolboy when the English master asked us to write a piece of poetry, and I just decided to crib this entire song and not admit that it was George Harrison's and claim it as my own, and he didn't know any better, and he gave me a B, I think. But how he would have not guessed it, I would have nicked it from how a 16-year-old would have come out with lyrics like, now the winter has come to eclipse out the sun that has lighted my love for some time, and a cold wind now blows, not much tenderness flows from the heart of someone feeling so tired. Anyway, I like that song. I think the verse is better than the chorus, but I think it's another honest, he says it in I'm in Mine as well, honest description of what was going on in his domestic life. And now we're going to move on to the happier period of his songwriting in terms of the more uplifting period. 33 and the Third and George Harrison both contain glorious love songs, mainly to Olivia, obviously, by this stage, and just upbeat, up-tempo numbers with a smile on its face, and that's more can be said for Dark Horse and Extra Texture, although Extra Texture did have that lovely lyric from the answers at the end, which he nicked from Sir Frankie Crisp, who's the owner of Friar Park. Starts off with that line, scan not a friend with a microscopic glass, you know his faults, now let his foibles pass. I always love that line, but it is Sir Frankie Crisp's, although he wasn't credited. So we move on to probably what is my favourite George Harrison album, and they are mainly love songs, or songs of optimism, shall we say, from the opener, Love Comes to Everyone. But I think lyrically, I just want to read out the lyrics to Your Love Is Forever. Sublime is the summertime, warm and lazy. These are perfect days like heaven's about here. But unlike summer that came and went, your love is forever. I feel it and my heart knows that we share it together. Resigned to the winter times cold and dreary, peering into fire flames burning, I know that unlike winter came and went, your love is forever. I feel it and my heart knows that we share it together. I feel it and my heart knows you're the one. The guiding light in all your love shines on. The only lover worth it all. Your love is forever. It's one of my favourite love songs of all time, and certainly one of my favourite George Harrison songs. Put that away later. Then we've got, from this album, I want to just quickly mention The Writings on the Wall, because I think that's the best song lyrically from here, although there's quite an amusing dig at the music business, Blood from a Clone. You need some papa, nothing like Frank Zappa, quite an amusing lyric there. Anyway, Writings on the Wall, very philosophical and good advice, really. The writings on the wall, brother, your life is in your hands. It's up to you to see the writings on the wall. It looks you in the eye, mister. It's time we stand up tall. Go see and understand the writings on the wall. Strange we hold on to things that have no grace or power, while death holds on to us much more with every passing hour. And all the time you thought it would last, your life, your friends would always be, till they're drunk away, or shot away, or die away from you. There's nothing that you need, sister. The Lord is in you all. Life is designed to see the writings on the wall. Music's in the air, mothers, you may have heard it call. To you that may see the writings on the wall. I just love it. It's quite a slow song and it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I think lyrically it's extremely strong. And then I just want to mention, on Cloud, it was another 5 years. Well, he did Grand Troppo again, the following year, which is not particularly memorable lyrically, if I'm honest. It's got some good tunes on it, like That's the Way It Goes and Mystical One. But lyrically it's not the strongest. But there's an interesting song on Cloud 9 called Devil's Radio. The story in here behind that song is he was at a traffic light in a quiet English town and he saw a church with a placard outside the church saying, don't gossip, don't play the devil's radio, don't gossip, or something like that. And he thought, there's a song in there. So he duly went and wrote, I heard it in the night, words the thoughtless speak, like vultures swooping down below on the devil's radio. I heard it through the day, airwaves getting filled with gossip broadcast to and fro on the devil's radio. So it's probably my favourite track on the whole of the Cloud 9 album, and a good lyric to boot. And then on the final Brainwashed album, which didn't come out until after he died, a year after he died, there's a good song called Any Road, good lyric where it's a bit, reminds me of Don't Go Where the Road Don't Go, the Ringo track. And just in fitting with George's philosophy on life, really, that you need to have a direction, otherwise you're going to fall off. I've been travelling on a boat and a plane, in a car and a bike, with a bus and a train, travelling there, travelling here, everywhere in every gear. But oh Lord, we pay the price, with the spin of the wheel, with the roll of the dice. Oh yeah, you pay your fare, and if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. I think that's a sensational lyric, and about the best song on Brainwash for me. So that was George. I hope I did justice to the songs, some of his best songs. Obviously there's loads of others I could have quoted. It would have taken 3 hours to go through all of them, and again, I don't really want to compare John Lennon, Paul McCartney and George Harrison as lyricists, but I think it's interesting to explore what made them tick lyrically, and what subject matter they covered, and what were their favourite topics. I think love songs are obviously common to all three, but apart from that, you've got certain things which Paul would write about more often, such as maybe a few more third-party situation songs or imaginary songs, and George with his spirituality, and then John will cover in the next video, covered a whole range of things, including self-reflection and psychedelic stuff and the rest of it. So that was George Harrison as a lyricist. Thank you for watching. See you next time.